Dread, let's start with you. What's your like journey just in general with like conspiracy theories or as of late or just what got you just here?
I've always had like a general interest in conspiracy theories. I always was, I guess, suspect you could say of like, um, I don't know, like the elites, like this group, I guess you could say, this elite exclusive group of people that control like hierarchy that controls the direction and influence and function of the country and the world. I believe it would started with the country and then eventually like, the world, like these people are in like connected into everything. So I've always kind of had that suspicion, that that's what was going on behind the scenes, those kind of things. And I've done like little bits of research and watched like documentaries that have like piqued my interest about it and just, further built that interest. So that's what kind of led me to where um I'm at today with like my interest level in it and like researching things and actually even like changing the way I live my life based on things that I find out.
Nice. Nice. Excellent. Okay, Sarah, what about you?
I think that most people kind of start with like the 9/11 conspiracies, but I honestly feel like my journey really started spearheading once I realized that our history books are bought and sold by, some of the richest people on our planet. And after I realized that, I just started questioning everything. I was like, well, if you can't trust the history books that you're taught in school, like, what can you trust? You can't really trust anything. So that kind of began my journey of just like questioning everything. Like, I don't really take anything for face value anymore. I go into everything open minded and um I feel like everything is worth questioning, even if it's factual, if it ends up being factual, I think there's still value in questioning it. Yeah. What about you?
So yeah, for me, as of late, um, so you know, currently we are in March of 2026. It was just like in November or December, uh, just the right, a few months ago, last year, where, you know, during work, when I'm just doing my thing, I'll put on music or I'll put on like a podcast just to like listen to and just, get in the zone. And certain things would come up recommended randomly, super random stuff. Like this one guy I have stumbled upon that's called Camping with Steve, where this guy goes around Canada and he just stealth camps in random places, which he really, I mean, it seemed like he was just sort of like living outside and calling it stealth camping. But then he
Mm.
made something of it. And then, I'm not exactly sure of his story. It could be uh, a reverse situation where he was completely, well off and had a house or whatever his situation was. Uh, but yeah, it was just there were funny videos, and then there was other things that were random. Like it was a congressional hearing where they were talking about UFO evidence and just government transparency with UFO technology and a bunch of stuff that was obviously tied into conspiracies. I sat there. I was like, "What? What the heck is this?" Like, it seems very real. They're talking about aliens. There's the government, and there's a bunch of people from the military. Um, so I tapped in and listened to it, and it was basically just a bunch of stuff about exactly that, just being transparent, where there was a whole group an organization that was formed, headed by certain military veterans and just, I mean, I guess current active military officials and certain physicists and scientists that were also a part of it. And, you know, I was just like, okay, clearly they're talking about real alien or NHI, non-human intelligence, extraterrestrial, or whatever the case may be, interdimensional, uh, interplanetary, whatever. Um, and there was this one video that really got me into it because it was like a thermal video from their ship. Um, I might have shown some of you it, but it was where this egg-like, figure that was basically like going at like high amounts of speeds and hovering right over the water, and they were just, there's now a lot of videos that are out about the egg shaped pill like figure. And anyways, they sent a missile at it and it bounced right off of it, and you can see it all in thermal vision. And I was just like, holy shit, like, that was
Wow.
just one of the
Wow.
things that's like, I'm not saying I believed it right away, but I was like,
Yeah.
okay, clearly there's something here. Then that just brought me down the rabbit hole of the cliche alien conspiracy stuff,
Yeah.
government hiding technology, space, just aero technology, jet propulsion stuff, the whole history of Northrop Grumman,
Oh
the
yeah.
Lockheed Skunk Works, which is like, there's all these black site private companies that engineer aerospace and jet propulsion technology and, all these aerodynamic stuff. And attempt to, the government has contracted them out in history, and I'm sure other companies, to try and reverse engineer what is believed to be alien or extraterrestrial technology and ships. So that was that whole cliche conspiracy. And even within that, like Sarah had mentioned, question everything. So even within that, there's the whole like, spectrum of what are the real alien, you know,
Hmm.
like sightings or occurrences? What are the fake ones that are either misinterpreted as real, but they are the like reverse engineering ships or practice runs from military technology, but that is based off of actual found extraterrestrial or NHI technology or vehicles that have actually crash landed here.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just throughout that whole spectrum of diving into so many like video testimonies, other videos of the history of all these companies with aerodynamics, contracting of military, uh, just contracts out to private companies, and the balance of, you understand the power and balance, and where really money is power. And, even through like government versus private entities, um, money drives it all, and is the influence, and secrecy is as well. And that's why the government does hire out to private companies, and then they work with them. And then, there's the coordination between what documents become public, what documents don't become
Hmm.
public.
Hmm.
Things, that's where, uh, public entities, public known knowledge, or, the dark web, dark internet, or in the government world, there's black sites, um, black companies, things that would be redacted or unknown or off the record. And they operate basically behind the curtains, and sort of over and above like the regular law in a sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just from there. That's where it led me to all of different just corruption within the government. And then sort of like, hey, eh, there is a network. I sort of like had the hypothesis myself that's like in line with basic conspiracies, of course, from, just me referencing, there seems to be like a global government that operates behind all these other national governments of each nation. And I say global and like international, it's because, for example, with some of what I've come across for the UFO and NHI and alien stuff, um, like Russia, Japan, and us and other countries, but like those are two other big ones where um, we're not the only ones from the times of, I guess, the 1950s or 60s and Area 51 and the main like Roswell crash and sighting. Um, and there was I we had when the nuclear bomb went off in World War II.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of that was when like certain military and industrial development more geared and focused on nuclear engineering, and certain sites based off that nature started to, you know, just become more prevalent. And then that's also when more records of alien sightings, alien occurrences started to happen, whether it was from a lot of military, uh, just military members who have witnessed it, because the common occurrence is the NHI or alien beings existing around and wanting to observe around. There's only so many outliers that can be an outlier until they're consistent and there's enough where it's a pattern, or there's enough to gather, a data
Mhm.
sample pool of data. Yeah, there's this other one where there's a crash landing in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, and basically it's this small town where you know e- you know everyone in the neighborhood saw this thing, everyone's reporting it, so the military comes in and does some sweep and does some whole shut down and take over and tries to find the creature that they're talking about, and then they try to pull a reverse psyop by creating some situation that says it's was a weather balloon or some weird thing.
Huh.
and
Classic.
and then yeah, exactly. And then, well, I mean, first of all, you have all these people that are claiming otherwise. So what, did did
Yeah.
did a bunch of people get paid to say some fake thing out of nowhere, like for no reason?
Yeah.
And
For sure.
then there was the whole evidence of where was the evidence of the crashed weather balloon? There was a report in the newspaper or something, but then it was okay, like what where, like,
Yeah.
it's
Like,
just
what
here,
was
like,
that?
saying it, but people were like, no, there was nothing. So
Wow.
that if you just actually follow enough to certain points, you'll find the truth
Yeah.
because of so many lies, or the actual truth.
Ooh.
um
Yeah.
so
True.
yeah,
So true.
and that's where I was at with that. Just
It's
super goofy fun conspiracy stuff. And then there's the whole Epstein files, which popped off more in the last few months and after the new year.
yeah.
And that's just what sort of connected more things for me, with just in general, with the government being corrupt, and at least at certain levels, to a certain extent. It's not everyone is in on every plan, that's for
Yeah.
sure. um and
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. It's not, every
yeah.
single person, but and what's crazy too with the Epstein, it's really opened my mind up more so to like the symbolism of things. I really started to like associate more symbols on things that we use every day to like
Mm,
Yep.
a lot of this
that's
crazy
funny, yeah.
stuff we hear going on, like, the hand signs, the eyes, the triangles,
Mhm.
Yep.
like cult
100%.
kind of imagery that you
a
see on
hundred
like
percent
currency, on our currency. And you kind of think, if you really think about it, it's like, why is that there?
Yeah.
Don't
It's,
get
like,
it.
right in plain sight,
I
you
love that
know?
you guys bring that up. I
In
talk
God
about
we
that
trust,
all
all
the
seeing
time.
Yeah.
powerful. It's like that doesn't make sense. Those two things kind of contradict. You know what I mean? So
it's
it's sort of
Very
weird.
opposing
Like
ideas.
a
it's a part
mockery.
of the
I feel like,
manipulation tactic.
right?
And really quickly back to just a point,
Oh yeah.
because just back really quickly to a point of that, like my just little timeline of where I got. So right before the Epstein files, at least the majority of some of that stuff, I would say, so some things started to pop up of just about certain celebrity deaths that were potentially suspicious based off the timing and what they were going through or had going on in their lives at the time. And yeah, basically a few specific ones were um, the Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, Avicii, and Anthony Bourdain deaths. Are you guys familiar with those four names?
Familiar with Avicii and Anthony Bourdain a little bit.
I know who they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, yeah. Chris Cornell was like a musician, singer from like the 90s to early 2000s. He was in I think Soundgarden.
Mhm.
And then like, he did a bunch of stuff. Black Hole Sun, that song, that's him.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then Chester Bennington from Linkin Park. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
so yeah. Basically it was a whole just kind of jump around timeline from the UFO stuff to which led to me questioning the moon landing specifically, which I had some like specific thoughts on, and then once I found out some other things, I had completely reverse thoughts on it. Um, based, oh man, it's crazy. Um, but but yeah, so it went from
Really?
there. So it went from the UFO stuff and kind of fun, and then just kind of like my opinion flipping on the specifics of the UFO landing, and then it went towards MK Ultra and
Mhm.
mind control and psyops, because that was, I mean, that was a big influence, I guess, just with everything going on from the time of the moon landing, um, and until like the Bay of Pigs invasion, um, all I guess what I would consider up until current times, um, and yeah, so that got to basically just where psyop stuff and just the manipulation of perception and how they control that and who is they,
Mhm.
that led to basically what are the 13 families that are known to potentially, control the world and be a part of what is known as the Illuminati,
Mhm.
which um, is referenced to that because they one of the origining families, the Merovingians,
Mhm.
um, they believe themselves to be a direct descendant of, Christ or have divine blood within themselves
Oh,
from
wow.
like, yeah, from like, some of, centuries ago
Huh.
when they started to really take over influence. So, yeah. And then that links down to the Astors, the Bundys, the Collins there, but there's a couple other families that I was going to like, they're like linked in before that
Oh,
through
okay.
time. And I guess just by power of influence.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I there's one they called like the Dubuins or something.
Mhm.
Um, the Lees are Li Lees from China. Um, so yeah, a lot of families there. I didn't name all 13, but yeah, it went to them, and then that's what led to um, basically right back to the silenced voices of what is, I believe, some of the majority of the silenced voices that we will go into specifically in another episode. But this specific group during this time, Avicii, Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, and Anthony Bourdain, they were trying to start a project that was called Traffic Jam. And Traffic Jam, that was to stop child trafficking and human slave trafficking and all that.
What the
Yeah,
fuck?
exactly. Yeah.
What
And
the fuck? They were trying to do that together?
uh-huh, uh-huh, they were working, they were behind the scenes, they were about to start a documentary that you can like I'm not sure what the history is on IMDb now currently, if it's up, but like, the thing was up and then certain people were listed for like producer, certain set direct whatever, certain
What
things.
it was called?
It was called Traffic Jam.
Oh, you
Well,
just said that. Oh my god.
that was the project. I don't know exactly what the
Wow, that is insane.
but yeah, you can look it up on IMDb if you do see that really quickly. So yeah, they were about to start that, and one went, then the second went, then the third, then the fourth, all mysteriously by
Yeah,
self-inflicted death.
yeah.
And I believe, I don't know which one it was. If it was, Chris Cornell or maybe Avicii. One of them, even if I'm referencing the right group, but there was, the testimony from like the evidence and everything where they, from what I believe is the assassin sent in to make the fake death look like it was. The guy, he was fighting back and with a wine bottle, and basically the guy had to stab him in the neck with the wine bottle instead of making it look like a hanging, or if he, drugged
Oh,
him and then, was able to handle his body. But they still, in the newspaper, oh, self-inflicted, accident to the neck, you killed
like
himself.
who's stabbing
It's
themselves with a wine
and
bottle in the neck?
and
Looks like they
then
took
and
it
so
down.
from that point, that was a specific point of evidence where I was just like, wait, like,
Yeah,
of course I already believed and saw some line of who controls what media and everything like that, but that was just like a direct, wait a minute, like
yeah,
there's direct, if any they have if anyone tries to fuck with what they got going on, you're fucking gone.
yeah.
Okay? And they have a direct line of communication, influence, whatever you want to say. And then, I think back to cliche. So that's my whole current journey. And that got me thinking back to my high school days where I was not even close to on this realm of conspiracy theory thinking or, you know, up to date with that type of knowledge. And neither was that knowledge available as much as it is now, or,
Yeah.
the common, just more of a common conversation about the situation or in general, the
Honestly, like
the
the people that
potential.
were like thinking about these things and aware of these things back in like 2016, I give them props because I unfortunately was one of those people that was not really questioning everything at that time. And I was like,
Mm.
there might have been some things here and there that I was like, oh yeah, that's probably fake or faked. But I don't know. I wish I would have believed those people more back
Uh-huh.
then. Yeah, I don't know how they got that information. It was
Red
not available.
Red was he been
Yeah.
telling me about this since I knew him, and I was like, wow. So what do you guys think people are really noticing right now, um in relation to like, the system and um the hierarchy, even the 13 families like you were speaking about, see, and yeah,
I mean, I think it's right in our faces that, the billionaires are billionaires, but there's only 1% of them, and the 99% is the rest of us. So, I kinda think that that's everybody's kinda waking up to that one, you know? It's like, "All right, well, who are these people that control everything?" Control the media, uh, the algorithms, everything. I think that one for sure is starting to wake people up. And then obviously the Epstein files, going back to what Carter was saying. I think that's also right in our faces, right? Some really demonic shit. It's how you like, and it's just there. It's something that was really interesting about that. And Carter, you were kind of touching on this is like the files came out, right? And they're like heavily redacted. It Going back to, like, the questioning everything aspect of that, it's like, were these things released on purpose? Were
Uh-huh.
they
I
released
I
for a reason? Like,
I
why
just
are they
started to
so heavily
question
redacted if they're
that more.
released? It doesn't make any sense. And then I don't know about you guys, but have you seen the videos of, where there's, like, links hidden in some of the files, and there's like other hidden things in the files where like if you like take some of the black redacted boxes off of texts and pictures, like sometimes you can actually remove it, like whoever redacted it like
I,
didn't really do it the right way.
I did hear about people being able to remove, like they just put a black box,
Yeah,
like they put a text box over it and just colored it black, and like people were able to edit it
yeah,
off and be like, I could read the whole thing. So
yeah.
I did
It's
hear about that.
crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
People, we're not as dumb as they think. They think we have too much technology readily available to us as well. I mean, obviously, they control what they control, but the internet is a crazy thing, and I do
Yeah.
believe it's a very hard thing to control, even with as much control as they
But did they
have.
release it on purpose like that though? Just so that
Yeah.
I
people
mean,
would
I
find
did
those
start to
things?
question that more the last 2 days, just because it's just so with the power of who's clearly they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They don't give a straight fuck. Okay, so
yeah,
really quickly, remember we're talking about the files and redacting, but I need to just get back to this point because it's sort of it's the whole like umbrella over
Go for it.
everything. And within the like grand scheme of like ages ago when they started doing this and like even then like current like US like more US political current times, which is like still in like from like the 60s or 70s, I would reference like from the more general influence of this, the times of Kennedy, because the Kennedys are another family in that 13. Oh yeah, the Onassis as well. um Basically, so there's this thing, and I was having a good discussion with our good friend, and if you talk to him in any form, it's like you're talking to, and if I don't, you, not everyone might agree, but it's like talking to a therapist
Yeah.
in a way. We have
Uh-huh.
our own therapists there at Kana, and they're very honest and very knowledgeable, especially we were talking and he was telling me about we were discussing the whole situation and from like ancient times and globally and the grand scale of what some of us know or believe to see as the operation of a grand occult type system, or there's reference of these satanic operations clearly going on here with the involvement of just trafficking humans, kids, using them as slaves, sex objects, eating babies and kids and people, the reports of that, and some clear documentation and clear evidence of that, code words. And, we look back to like all these things. There's the silenced voices, most of them through the media, because the media is the puppet and the jester for the real one in charge to use. And in olden times, when there's the king, the jesters use to display what's appropriate and acceptable from the public to the king, and what message or what you know attitude or level of integrity that they carry out as a society and what morals they have. So throughout these last decades where they put certain things throughout media, it's right in front of our faces, and we of course we I'm not speaking on it as like a crazy conspiracy theorist. I know I sound like that, but like as a general person who's just experiencing it, and I'm like, damn, like this thing that I love from my childhood, like, oh, yeah, it did have it, I feel like it did have a little bit of like this influence or like this imagery where I can clearly remember it, like, oh yeah, that made me just want to smoke weed, or like, ooh, even whatever personality takes place too from different people. Some
Mhm.
people who want to kill and they see like murderous things. We can dive into this with all the mass shootings and all these things influenced, and kids see violence in video games and all this. I know I sound cliche and like all that, but it's so dumb and cliche. Your grandparents or people in the olden times, oh, the devil's in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, goddamn right, it was and it has been. And
That
yeah,
was
there's
cool.
like all this stuff that has been blatantly in front of our faces. And so to the point was explaining to me something, because there's a lot of course, you can't deny it. There's a lot of references and just ties, whether you're religious or whether you're not. There's a lot of religious ties and books, stories of the faith and of Jesus, and you know, of course, we're dealing with Israel, and there's the Jewish religion as well, where not, like I said, not everyone is tied into being bad or part of the bad guy's plan. Um, so, but yeah, basically, law of retribution. So I'm just going to give you the actual definition really quickly. Um, so, well, retribution, giving people what they deserve, hitting them back with equal force to a blow they have struck, and treating someone as they have treated others. So, in another sense, what do we call that? Karma,
Yeah, karma
right?
teaching them a lesson,
Just the
basically.
most basic thing that I think we've all experienced, and that's why whether you're religious or not, like in times where I'm questioning, like, oh, like even when I was, younger, like, oh, is there God? Oh, like whatever. But then karma, and like certain forces and things in life, your energy, the good that you put out will come back, and you'll notice it, or you know, the negativity will come back if you've been putting that out, and you notice what you put out will come back in, as above so below. That's a whole nother thing we can get into, the reference of scientific knowledge, reference physics, everything evidence, and then everything faith based and conceptual, which is still all conceived within ourselves, and there has to be some sort of connection. If there is a lot of this consistent reference throughout time and throughout so many different books and faiths and religions, there still are consistencies. So that's where, it divides people in so many ways, but there are some truths both in science and faith and religion. Um, but yeah, to that point again, the law of retribution, to the way these people operate with the mindset of appeasing to certain demonic gods, and working in this occult type method. Um, if you put out what you put out and you're trying to hide it, or you're intending bad, but like, you're basically lying, it will come back negatively or not positively. And it's amazing explaining. And that's why, like, with me and him both agreeing and being aware of, like, oh, they do it in the media, they do it subliminally. There's all these things that are blatantly in front of our faces for so many years that
Right.
it's like they've been doing it, and to them, it's okay,
Yeah.
because we've been doing it in front of your faces. You've been accepting it gradually and gradually and gradually as a mass society over time. And we're systematically like shoving all these influences to you, whether it's through health and food or media or influence of technology. And we're going to keep an eye on you with the whole potential global ID and restructuring of global finances and everything like that. The whole working towards a control, like, controlling you all.
Digital
Uh,
money. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Centralized currency type shit.
But yeah, it's like basically it's like we can do it if you're accepting it, and like, you're okay with it, and and then we're not punished, and we're also appeasing our God. Um, and yeah, there's so many things that make sense, that if you get to that point and then you understand some of the historical evidence and the major turning points in history, and how really it's just these families who control the money system, um, and influence wars, to then, no matter what, they're profiting from either side, and then making people vulnerable for everything, for a necessity of resources and restructuring afterwards, vulnerable to trafficking of humans, susceptible to just whatever. So yeah, and then they've continually, or from what I believe, they've just controlled, at least from the sort of earlier recent modern US times, there's the heavy like influence within media and Hollywood, and especially where the eye of media across the world globally like sort of comes from Hollywood and like United States, and people in international, everyone has their entertainment capital and industry. But
Mhm.
everyone watches American movies, and those things go global and international, and American sports are super global, and you
Mhm.
know and and then that's where, with with that mindset, going down the rabbit hole of uh who owns what companies,
Mhm.
what symbols what symbols mean what, or look like actual what ancient texts, and certain things where you tie in just so many connections historically, and really follow the
So
money.
many.
Following the money is like what will lead you to the answer.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, there's a reason why American media and, pop culture is so expansive throughout the world. I mean, it's not because we're the most interesting or the best out there, that's for sure. It's definitely not. It's all propaganda, it's all propaganda and like you said, following the money. Yeah, no, there's a reason for it. It's it's definitely not. We're not that cool. We're not that interesting.
Yeah,
and
all that
and
wealth is concentrated, I think, to control the media. It's all,
it is.
Yeah.
But that's a good I love that you said that because so shout out a quick couple shout outs. Shout out to Dr. G, Dr. John Paul Garrison. I
Dr.
like to watch
G.
him on YouTube. He's a clinical and forensic psychologist. Um, and he does analyzations of courtroom stuff, different, legality stuff, crime scenes. He's been covering all the latest like government and Epstein stuff and all testimonies, Clinton's, all that. Um, and he's like led me to believe factually of like certain things to be true or not, or whether certain things were faked or switched out or someone's actually alive or dead.
Uh-huh.
But shout out to him and his page if you guys have, if you guys want to get certain breakdowns on things, check out his page. And then Sean Ryan show, where again, this is a good reference in terms of like what we're dealing with, and in terms of like the conscious mind of, okay, at the whole grand scheme of things, it's good versus evil. Like I stopped seeing, which even then before I didn't see left versus right politically, that was already to me throughout high school. I didn't understand the deep like levels of it or really look into it, but
Mhm.
from again following what is like the basic facts of following the money and certain historical just points, I was like, okay, like it kind of doesn't matter who you vote for, like because again there's people at like top levels that are sort of just dictating things. I
Yeah,
didn't know or even have a realm of thought to what it is to the extent now that I know with like, oh, the
yeah.
Rockefellers or the Rothschilds doing that.
I had
um
hope back then. I had hope. You said back in high school,
You you you
you
didn't
didn't have
yeah,
that kind of.
you didn't, like, understand, like, left or right? Like,
oh
you didn't
yeah,
understand
so
the principle, like,
right.
why?
So to the mindset, thank you, thank you. So good versus evil, left versus right. Um, like it's just good versus evil in my mind, or just what's like right versus wrong in a way. And again, like, you know, back
Very
when we
simple.
had like the Civil War times and certain, times of the civil rights and everything. And, someone was like claiming like, oh, all these people are racist and da, da, da. Well, like, no, like, you could have one like uh, I could have a white friend who I know is not racist, and it's just like you can't group him with all the white people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, it's not about race. It's not about specifically that. It's just good versus evil. And we can't like group everyone in with like where we are following certain evidences of money and certain political controls in our country and who's really pulling the strings.
That's crucial though, not grouping everyone in, I feel like, because like, as individuals I feel like people are smarter, but as a whole,
Ah, yes.
they're not,
I no, I not
if that
okay,
makes
so
sense.
that there was a psychology student from like Oxford that created this game to try and prove a point that the power of knowledge is more powerful even in a group of a minority that knows the knowledge versus a group of the populace of like the majority who doesn't know the knowledge. And this brings us to our current times. So that game was called Werewolf. But it's basically if anyone is on freaking just watching streaming certain reality shows right now, Traders, that show Traders, I think it's
Love
on like
that show.
You do? Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife loves that show, and I like it and I hate it. I hate most reality TV, and I have, but it gets me drawn into it, and that's just a
Yeah,
part of their that's a part of their thing. They wanna show you shows where people pit each other against each other, and they act like, "Oh, like, let me stab you in the back, but
yeah,
let me claim all this truth," and then, like, they just talk shit, and, like, all of them are basically that, or Real Housewives, like, "Oh, da, da, da," like, "Let's just show you all this shit where we can have you acting like trash," and,
for
like,
sure,
you
for
know, and I'm
sure.
like, "Yeah, like, you're just gonna be trash, like, that's okay," like, that's
And
exactly
I'll
how
do
they
you one
feel.
better, and we'll pay you $200,000 if you win.
And
So
that
be
and
the
that's the point
worst
too.
version of yourself on
Yeah.
TV.
And they're like,
Yeah.
We'll show you, this is why they should, money over kindness to your neighbor." Like, oh, you're
Yeah,
willing to, it's the whole cutthroat thing. It's the whole, like, it also goes back to just the foundation of Wall Street and business and everything, where it's like a part of, like, what you said, the education system. We don't
mhm,
want workers, or sorry, we don't want people to think and all that. We want workers, and we want them to work hard for us and then work against each other
yep,
and fight to be in this position of the number one, my number one, teacher's
cog in the
pet.
machine.
Exactly, exactly, in the system.
To be a really good, responsible worker.
It's
Um,
the way they present that information, I think, that determines
but
how people, like, perceive
yes,
it, you
exactly.
know?
So to that point, that game Werewolf, this game Traitors, which they're right in front of our faces, who typically wins? It goes to show that, well, not typically, I haven't watched most Traitors, but in this game of Werewolf and the
Instances.
study done, you can take 10 games done and maybe two times the majority will win, but 8 out of 10, the two werewolves who are able to act as werewolves at night and then conceal themselves and act as they're just human during the day and still act like they're public figures or public, part of the public, but they withhold knowledge, those two themselves, and they share the public knowledge. So they are able to control and influence. There's the
So
voting out
true.
process where it's like, oh, they're all bickering and they're all like, oh, this, that, we're
Yeah.
voting. Like, who wants to, I believe it's this person. I believe it's like, no, like that. And then these two people are sitting here right in front of your faces with invisible masks on, and they're really the ones who are freaking controlling it behind the scenes. And then
Yep.
they send
We're
out
not saying
Deborah.
anything.
Deborah's not a freaking traitor. Boom, Deborah's gone. Okay, perfect. Then they go and they, and another one's gone, another one's gone. It's about manipulation. It's about divide and conquer, and again, not to an effect, and it's just based off spread of information and awareness. And I think it has to do with, again, the control of the basic main news source, where they're not reporting on it and they're doing all these distractions and other things. So it's like people,
Misinformation
and people
versus
aren't
genuine.
gonna, yeah, people aren't gonna believe it to the main part. Is if people aren't gonna tell on themselves, the ones who are doing it, and they're controlling the news, so the public who's watching the news is not gonna, believe it until the people actually tell on themselves and it's in
Mm.
the main news. We're out
Mhm,
here watching these, well, at least myself, and you too as well. I'm sure you're going out to independent sources and following independent channels. So
mhm.
yeah, you're getting free information, and you're getting the most information and then allowing yourself to choose. You're not letting yourself being forced to only have certain options.
Right.
No,
But
no, definitely not. I mean, I remember the days, like, growing up, my mom would always have, like, Fox News, CNN on TV. She'd watch news every morning, and as I grew up, I was just like, "Wow, you really only this is your only source of news, is what these people are telling you." Thank God for the internet, having the access to free information is a game changer, because I just can't even imagine what all of us, our peers, would be believing if that was our only news source still.
Mhm.
'Cause then you live within that. Like you said, if this is your only news source, you live within that. Especially the older you get, your parents get older. Even my father sometimes, like, I gotta look at what he's watching because
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is not actually, like, accurate.
Just just straight up falling for all the American propaganda.
Yeah, literally, and
Yeah,
you see it more and more, It's
yeah.
more prominent too with the AI and stuff, it's even more prominent.
Oh my god,
Um,
yeah. It's
so yeah,
impossible to tell what's real anymore.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's one of the cons of the internet is it's just unlimited potential for that kind of stuff.
so true. Catch
Thank
you
you. Have
later.
a good one.
See you,
Alright,
bro.
bye.
Peace.
Peace.
Sick.
How you were like, oh, money, making money more important than like loving thy neighbor or just being like,
Yeah.
where's the humanity? Like we're
Yeah,
humans. We should
exactly.
be cool with each other. Like I think we're designed to be as violent as we can be. We were designed more or less to be cool with each other, work together because that's when we're the most prosperous. You know what I'm saying? So,
100%.
but like to your point, like like even like celebrities, certain ones, I think all to a degree, but certain ones they're used to like shape, cultural trends that
Mhm.
affect people's behavior because they want to be like their favorite celebrity or that's what's cool. That's what's happening in Hollywood, so
Yeah.
that
And
influence,
ag
drives
and
people's
again
thinking.
yeah, and again, I mean, that influence part, some of them, more directly than others are probably like, whoever their agent is from a part of whatever agency and whoever owns that agency, where there's direct like, "Okay, this is the agenda for this actor, make sure they do this," or, or just whatever, cut them off, type of thing.
Yeah.
So 100%. And yeah, like, that's the thing, those people there's a certain level to where, like there's always, like, the level of awareness, how soon they know if they are being a part of the influence or how, soon they're brought in or made aware.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Bless you. Recruited,
Thank you.
quote unquote, huh? Like
Exactly.
pulled into the fray.
Exactly. Gee.
Bless you.
Um,
Are you good?
but yeah, they definitely, like, that's just 'cause, oh man, it's so funny. It's so funny because once you, like, have the mindset or at least consider if you even if you don't think it's true, like, let's say it's your job to be like, "Oh, let me just track this data and this information," just because people wanna, like, have a book written about fake history, and you track oh, shoot, where is it? And you track, like, agenda, but I see here that this company is owned by one of, like, the elite families, and they paid him on a contract to do this, and then he started doing this stuff, or, y I
They
don't know.
have ties to
Yeah, there's a
exactly
specific yeah, you can trace the web. Um, yeah.
with politicians. You could trace like
Oh,
through
for
these shell
sure.
companies that they're tied
Easily.
to. They'll have it in family's name to try to like have it under the radar, but
Mhm.
you'd be like, that's your fucking sister-in-law or something like.
Exactly. Exactly. And it was just like, you just got handpicked to do this, and it's some family tie shit. Yeah. Yeah, there's so let's just talk about the different realms of conspiracies.
Okay. Right.
So what ones would you, like, think as different or categorize? Because I have the way that I would break them down.
So I mean, I would say there's a historical. If we're talking like realms, genres, I guess
Mhm.
my mind is gonna. I would say
Yeah, that's a
historical.
good, like, that's a good broad one for sure. That covers a
Gov.
lot of it.
Yeah, government, which kind of could be tied into historical because they want to control that
See,
narrative.
yeah, I feel like they're gonna all tie in. That's crazy.
Because I think it's the elites, if you will, their power has they've encompassed everything. So at that
Exactly.
point, it's like you said, the umbrella earlier, it's all under the
Exactly.
technically. But if we break it down, like if we wanted to like categorize them and be like, we're gonna touch on this, this, and this, in my opinion, I would say historical. We could go government. We could go extraterrestrial. We could go
I like where you're at already.
into the space I don't even know
Yep.
what you would call that genre, but you know what I mean, like the
Just like, yeah, space, time
space.
dimension, space stuff.
Yeah, space theory. What do we know? What's real? What's
Yeah.
not? What's
Yeah, so
possible? What's not? Because some of the things they theorize about, like how the planet came to be, and like some
well,
of it I'm not
yes.
against,
Yes,
but
and
it's just like,
again,
how do you know? Like, okay,
you're saying the perfect thing because as we're even explaining what we're talking about, what are we referencing from what do we have reference from what knowledge or what we have, right? And where we learned, right? Which we just learned is what?
real.
Controlled and orchestrated and fabricated almost
Yeah,
by these freaking elite families and all that. So like even then that's why it's like fucking mind blowing just at the point of like questioning this and then still questioning what
what you,
what my questioning is based off a reference of knowledge that I already have, which I now know is potentially questionable.
yes. Like, was I meant to find this though at the same
Right.
time and now think what I'm thinking? Or like, it's
Right.
like a mind fuck. It's
It
like,
is a big mind fuck. And so I think I have one more. So I want to, okay, so wait, what were we just talking about? The realms of them. And then
yeah,
let's talk about one more topic, just kind of like where we at and okay, but like, is it good? Is it bad? Like, what are we going to do? Like, type of thing. Cause so really quickly before we get there, cause it's a serious question, but just because you said all the realms basically in the same way. Um, because yeah, like as a broad way in a broad spectrum, they're all like global kind of government tied, uh, and of course historical from just now until the past. So 100% where it's like I would consider like current and past, maybe like there's like a couple realms.
okay, okay,
Um,
agreed,
but
agreed.
just in general, there's like you said, like there's government, and then from I would say the two ways where I would follow things, I'd be like behind, behind the scenes or black site or Illuminati, the dark
Okay,
world where it's secret families, secret societies, secret knowledge. And then there's
that
open
black
knowledge
curtain,
and the government and public knowledge stuff. Um,
a little
and
easier
whether
to
it's
kind of like get
Yeah, exactly. I
semi
would think
information on.
there's things where there's trying to be hidden and there's stuff that it's why people believe it less. It's because like, okay, you believe this, there's not even what where you find this type of thing. Like there's less it's called
Yeah,
esoteric. It's hidden information, more of a secret, lesser known knowledge. Um and then
right,
there's, of
right.
course, like the publicly known stuff, whether even then, whether people know it or not, and they're still like, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, right. But there's still, okay, like everyone knows about moon and space conspiracies. And, for the most part, there's, all the current or recent government stuff. And then there's some past stuff. But yeah, definitely those. And, we have media and entertainment.
Oh
I would
yeah,
say there's like, yeah, UFO and space timeline conspiracies, time time travel potential
dimensional kind
stuff.
of like,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess those are
yeah.
just, those are our basic couple that we got. Um, okay. So yeah, how do you feel? Because dude, like, man, even myself going through this information over the past couple of months, stumbling upon different like points of research, people's testimonies, documents that are shown, evidence clearly
Right.
there. Um, and again, we just all three were talking about like, it's like they've been doing it in front of our face. They're still like, the files redacted, but like they're showing us some, but they're not. And it's like clearly it's like, okay, like it's like they're toying with us. And I now also believe that it is a way to kind of stir the pot, provoke the public, and again, just one of the basic points of let's put another pin in this group of sheep and spread them out, create some division, divide and
Yeah.
conquer. Um,
Distraction, more
exactly.
misdirection, you know?
Yes. Because ultimately, clearly, these government officials and certain people that are named, whether they are more closely on the Israeli spectrum of the ties or they're more closely on US, government official or US citizens and then just working for them on that side of the tie, whatever the influence and at the ultimate end of it, whoever's in control and whoever's in power, it's like, okay, you do this for me and then you're safe, or I'll make sure you have what we need you to have, or you have, you know, what you need once the tables are turned and once the next chapter of the book starts.
Right. Did you see how the House acted when like the Israeli prime minister came in?
Oh, when they gave him like a double encore before he even started.
Bro,
Yeah, I mean,
what
dude, you don't
is
have to
that
tell me.
about?
I
Like,
haven't so you bring that up, that was one of my points of contention, like, before as, like, okay, someone's pulling the strings here who's, like, not just our government. Um,
I mean,
so, yeah,
and I've always suspected that, but now it's more. And then recently with us just bombing Iran, I was like, yeah, that's weird. Like, what the fuck's more? What's really going on? Like,
exactly.
on our, it's not even on our behalf; it's on their behalf. We did it, so that's even more sketch. Like, why are we
Yeah,
bombing them for someone else?
dude, yeah,
Iran's no threat to us. They're literally no threat to us. They could. They don't even have a missile that can make it over here with what we have. Like,
yeah.
they're no threat to us. So it's like we're doing
Most
that for
people aren't,
Israel.
that's why it's funny.
I mean, yeah, we spend way too much. That could be a whole nother episode, like our tax dollars going to
Yeah,
like these other things that the elites decide for instead of. That's why the roads and stuff are so bad. If you really look at it, like where's all the money
bro,
going?
100%,
We're falling.
100%.
The
I thought
infrastructure
that,
is
like,
falling
7
apart.
years ago.
That's what it is, bro. It's literally like, how come everything is like
I'm like,
we
"Why is
paying
there still
taxes,
potholes in this
taxes?
fucking street?"
Your tax dollars at work, you see signs, and then literally like everything's falling apart.
Yeah,
But whole nother deal. But to that, yeah, I'm like, there's other people like influencing our government, and I don't know. That's something I do plan to look into, like research wise. Like, why is there so much like if you go back in history, we've always been like that with Israel. We've always like done their bidding.
mhm,
And it's just weird to me. It doesn't make sense. Like, if we're the biggest and baddest, why are they controlling what we're doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense
yeah.
with what they teach us. So I'm like, yeah,
No,
if you
yeah,
just really look at it, you could see like the writings on the wall that
exactly. Damn, fuck. Yo, I don't know why I'm, like, straight up losing my train of thought, like,
it's okay, bro. It's the end of the
multiple
day,
times.
probably. Like, I feel it. I feel it.
But yeah, shoot, what were we were talking about just the current state and, like, what do we even do?
With the information we have now, like what's publicly out there, like with the Epstein files, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm
No,
sorry,
go
really
ahead.
quickly. So, yeah, like, they're clearly just toying with us because, like, they have the information, they could give it out or not, whatever, but damn.
I always think
So
about what you said about them blatantly putting it in front of our face for like years through entertainment, um, certain just advertisements, things like that. It's
mhm,
blatantly put out in front of our face.
mhm,
Even I had a like a few weeks ago there was like a Looney Tunes episode on randomly, an old one too. It wasn't like none of the new like Looney Tunes.
mhm.
It was original,
Oh, yep, yep.
and it was like Elmer Fudd chasing Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny, yeah, the whole bunny situation, bro, that's a whole episode, but
And
go
he
ahead.
was like, yeah, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to like, be getting rabbits or whatever." Like the thing was like he's not supposed to be getting rabbits, but then
Yeah,
Bugs is like tempting him.
and did he turn into a girl or something like that?
Well, no, he's just like Elmer Fudd's trying to walk away from him, and then Bugs Bunny's like, "It's just one rabbit. It's not gonna hurt you. Like no one's gonna know. It's just one rabbit." And he's sweating.
Yeah,
I'm like, just as I'm telling you, what does this make you think of? And he's like, it's just one rabbit, like no one's gonna know. And then he starts breaking down. He's like, yeah, he's right. It's just one rabbit, no one's gonna know, and I can always quit again. Like after.
Yeah.
right. And then he's like, yeah, I should be fine. So then he goes and gets his gun and like starts hunting them again. And I was like, that's crazy for a kid show. Cause to me, I thought about like an addict, like,
And especially back then for kids,
and then
like,
like the drawing was
dude,
old. You could tell this was like like original Looney Tunes.
yes,
And I
like,
was
see,
watching it and I was just
that
like,
gives you a reference of how to
what the fuck?
behave.
And I was like, how weird. Like, and the words they use, like they say, he was like, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna just go cold turkey. And I was like, see, like just certain words, I'm
They
like, they're already
influence
like, yeah, it's crazy. Cause I
100%,
was like,
bro.
damn, that's weird. I'd be weirded out if my kids were watching that. I heard it say I'm cold turkey. Just that word alone. That's
That's reference to
commonly
someone who's
associated,
addicted to something and needs to get off of it, or like trying to quit something, addiction.
literally. And the sweating, if you watched it, you would be like, what the fuck? That little instance of it was really weird to me. I was like, yeah, that
Yeah.
was a total them showing like an addict going through it, how they could be influenced to do it again. Cause as soon as he was like, I'll just quit again, I was like, damn, what the fuck? Like, doesn't work like that. That's an addict's mind though, but it doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
And I was thinking about what you said. It's just right there in our face, like
And
blatantly.
dude, that's the thing too. Throughout everything, the rabbit and the bunnies, and you look at where we're at now, Bad Bunny. This is why this time is all the patterns of everything, whether you trace pattern of society, finances, media, certain things that could be referenced to what are known as their sacrifices. If you follow U.S. history and mass shootings and certain things, so the bunny and the rabbit like represents, I think it represents sacrifice, um, and
And or a
rebirth or
ritual.
a resurrection.
Okay, that's good.
Well, not sacrifice, but yeah, like a vitality, rebirth, and a resurrection, like a whole new beginning, basically. But I think like through and what is connected with like the occult methods, through sacrifice. So, I mean, yeah, Bugs Bunny through Looney Tunes, they were like, let's put this out there forever. So, yeah, Bugs Bunny. Uh, you got Donnie Darko, where you check out that movie and the themes in that. Um, what else do we have? There's some clear ones. Oh well, the Easter Bunny. Yeah, the Easter Bunny. Bad Bunny right now, currently, and literally Bad Bunny. Like, are you kidding me? I also heard a recent interpretation and just like breakdown of his whole halftime show for the Super Bowl, which is
Mhm.
sponsored by like connected to a bunch of elite ties and global influencing ties of the U.S. For to the U.S. public of these like elite families. But yeah, the Bad Bunny Super Bowl, like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, just we'll discuss that in another episode. But just in general, the bunny is
For
a
sure.
heavily the bunny and the rabbit heavily symbolized throughout their influence and their subliminal messaging.
That's crazy.
But yeah,
Rabbit holes,
yeah,
No,
damn,
well, that's
damn,
crazy. That's
damn,
crazy. It's
that is crazy.
it's even like with sports, like thinking of the Super Bowl, getting into sports, like it's all as much as I love sports too, it sucks because basketball's my shit. But a lot of it, if you think by design, is for just to keep us kind of dormant, docile, entertained, so you don't really look at, I think, what's going
100%.
on.
Oh yeah, that video you showed me about the Roman times and the Colosseums,
Yeah, and that's when I
and
think it really I mean, before that, but that's when it really came to like true fruition of because
well,
like how much
so
does the Coliseum look like a common stadium? It's basically a carbon copy. It's just modernized. But I was like, look, you see the Roman Coliseum? Look at our stadiums today, and we have them everywhere. That was just in Rome. Like we have them in
exactly,
every state. There's a stadium, like or
yeah,
multiple stadiums. Shit.
yeah, and it makes sense. You know what the point was of just that you were making in that video, it's like it's just a distraction. The sports, the entertainment, all entertainment is just an distraction to keep us docile. Because so in the reference of that and those Roman times before the society's collapse, but it was on track, you know, it was on a similar. Basically, we've seen multiple patterns of the society collapse where there's a great thrive and a rise in the society, and then the crash and the fall, and it's all driven and influenced from like the devaluation of the money system and overpopulation and basically immigrate what would be known as immigration through borders back and forth, just populations uh, becoming bigger, because people want to come and live in this thriving city, this metropolis, or this place, this land, this country. But then the rulers become corrupt, and the system eventually falls because things begin to become bought out. Like now with private companies sponsoring things, like who's gonna make pay the most for a commercial or whatever, and like again, money drives it all. Um,
Yeah,
and then you're
absolutely.
gonna wear their freaking logo on your jersey or whatever, whether you believe it or not, and believe in whatever they're doing or not, or their product, or you have no, you don't even give a crap, like you're just
Yeah,
playing, and you're paying for your millions of dollars, like you're playing. So basically though, um yeah, so it's just yeah, through that pattern, it's the devaluation of money, um and the corruption of the government system, basically. And to where before, when certain things were properly enacted for democracy and democratic republics of voting, and or trying to get someone in power where there's not a ruler and like replacing people, you know but there was this part in history of like the Romans, or the Greeks, or some specific one. We'll dive into the specifics in another episode, but there's this the guard of the emperor. It's called the Praetorian Guard. And basically it was like, you have these bodyguards who are the tough guys who protect the emperor and kind of control the public, and they just sort of walk around doing whatever they want.
mhm,
And they basically bully people into money, and like the emperors just keep getting either killed if they don't like what they're doing, uh, or if emperors are going to pay them off, to keep them alive and pay for their safety. And then,
protection.
but if they don't like what the emperor's doing, like they're going to kill him. Now I'm not sure the specifics there, of course, of like who's paying who and who's doing what, but basically it's just
Right.
the basics of the system where like this, you know, it's a military government in a way where you look at us, what does the most money towards all of our stuff go? Oh, the military. Oh, we're the grandest military, like, oh, like da 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 da. Yeah, but then what happens, like the money towards other things is not as valued, and the system for other things to build society starts to die. And back then, along with that,
Literally.
you know, they just keep replacing emperors, or if it was an emperor who was, a ruler, and then they don't like him as a public, as the public, but he'll just his son will be the next ruler. So it's like they don't get to vote. It's just like a totalitarian sort of dictator, on and on. They just replace the same guy basically. So then you're also
Bloodline shit.
exactly. So there's these broken parts of the system where eventually the society will collapse because like people are going to uprise, or there's going to be some sort of major devaluation of money, and
Mhm.
then the financial system crashes. Um, yeah, it's a pattern that we've seen, or that we can see if you pay attention to it, over and over and over. And we're sort of in a similar era right now. Um, but again, yeah, it could all just be not as serious. Back to that question of, oh, what do we do? Is it good? Is it bad? Like what can we do? Yeah,
It's a lot. I think
it's a lot.
Part of what we can do is speak out about these things, make people aware of certain things, because a lot of people, like we spoke on before, like they either don't know or they just don't want to accept certain thing. And I get it. You don't want to believe a lot of this stuff like in those files. It's crazy if you really look at it. Like that is crazy to believe like that's going on. That's what's really going on with these people, that high profile people, some people that ran the country, past, present. Um,
It is. And sorry to cut you off, but to that point, it's like I don't think so. Like back to what I was kind of referencing earlier, it's like they're doing this clearly in front of our faces, and there's all this evidence, but there's also like clearly evidence that they're holding back. Um, and they have the power to like do whatever they want with whoever, or release information or not. So it kind of feels like some sort of like play into where, no matter who is on what side of it in the government, or how close they are to the person pulling the strings, or whoever,
mhm.
once whatever major situation happens, um, it's really like, I mean, most people, like, I mean, I don't know, it's just like this is where it's like, I mean, I don't know, I feel like, yeah, we're gonna see. Dude, I don't even know because I just saw a conspiracy theory about protests in
Oh,
general.
really?
Yeah, so like, why don't we have protests going on about this right now? And you think about, oh, we had protests about this, or about Black Lives Matter, about freaking
Ice,
shootings, about what?
ice.
ICE, yeah, exactly. Like all these things, yeah, all the ICE stuff and more of the Minnesota stuff that's like actually in the news. So you think about it like where it's like stuff that's actually known or in the news or throughout history, all these, oh, oh, women's rights, literally even then, like back then, like, oh, black rights,
Civil rights.
desegregation, civil
Yeah.
rights, all that. Dude,
That speaks so
there's a conspiracy theory that it's literally these people behind the curtains pushing these agendas and sending people out to start and influence these exact protests, because again, they don't care about left versus right. They literally created left versus right. So they want to go out, they want to get people on the Democratic side. Oh yeah, go out, protest for civil rights, protest for women's rights, protest for abortion. Okay, now let's go pay money to people that are on our other side, and they're going to be anti-abortion, anti this, anti that. They poke at both sides because as long as there's shit going on, that funds their money. And that's like, they can't lose, because of like they just watch it play out, and then whoever wins, left versus right, they still win because they're funding
They
and
just
getting
play both
money.
sides.
They're just playing both sides, and they're really the ones poking the bear on both sides. And it's literally, it's crazy cliche, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. They play both sides, manipulate the situation. By design, we're not supposed to have a left and right, like political party system. If you really look at like the founding of America, if you want to get
No,
technical,
yeah, I
because
mean,
that was
there's
a
like,
concern that the left versus right agendas would become more prominent than like the country's problems.
right, like
And
there
it's
was,
just about beating the other side. Like, well, we just want the other side to win. So whatever fuck we got to do,
so yeah,
it's not
yeah,
about what they're elected for and should be,
yeah,
doing.
yep, exactly.
This has been Rabbit Holes. We're just opening the door, so stay tuned. Peace.
Peace.